So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to maximize how much money you make on everything you sell. See, most people are losing money on their margins. If chances are, if you're not paying your bills, it's you too. And we're going to have a guest today that we're going to talk about how they fixed it, and not only how they fixed it, but how they leveraged that repair to sell their business for way more money than they expected to.
I'm Dennis.
And I'm Greg,
And this is the More Profit, Less Stress podcast.
where we provide the tools for more profit and less stress in your business now so you can turn into a valuable asset later.
My name is Sandra, and I recently, about a year ago, sold a pet store, and I had it in Arizona for 8 years.
Well, I think it's important to note that you sold it for a profit, because we've talked before how very
Yes.
few people do, right? So
Yes.
you're one of the people who had a pet store that actually was able to get out of it and profit off of the process.
We were very, very focused on it. We got into this kind of deal because we knew what we're getting ourselves into.
Right.
The store was initially losing money. It was just kind of recently opened, only about 6 months opened. So we knew going in, we're going to lose some money
Right.
initially. But we had a really good plan how to make it profitable. I ran it for quite a few years. We were ready to sell it sooner, but COVID hit in the middle of it and slowed everything down just a little bit. Mind you, our revenue grew way, way higher through COVID. And after kind of COVID was over, we sold for a lot more than we were.
Yeah, there was a bidding war, I think, right, for the purchase of the business?
Yeah.
And before we
but
get into that,
yeah.
let's backtrack a sec, because I think this is actually, but you said something that sparked a thought. So for those listening, there's some really good lessons Sandra has here about gross margin, but a lesson that just hit me as we started talking, you just started sharing your stories. There's a different lesson, which is if you know how to do it, you can buy a business that's underperforming or losing money, fix it, and make money on it. No different than if,
Or
like I know
cars or flipping anything. If
Yeah,
you
I
know
was
how to
gonna say
flip
that.
it properly
Exactly.
and you have experience in that
fix it
area.
up.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Same
then-
concept.
Yeah, it's just difference is time frame window. So just for a quick overview, what was the time frame between buying and selling? How many years? But no, so let me clarify. You bought it with the plan to sell it before COVID hit. How long was the initial plan? How many years?
We said 3 to 5 years.
So
four.
to take something that's failing, just so everybody's listening, if you know how the game works, and we're going to get into some details of the game today, and they bought it intelligently, it wasn't just an impulse, I'm going to go buy something that's failing. It was an intelligent purchase with a 3 to 5 year plan that would have been executed to do one of the few things very few businesses ever do, which is sell for more than they wanted to sell it for through a bidding war.
Yeah.
Which tells you have to do a lot of things to turn it around, but the time frame is very small for that to be possible.
You got it. Yeah.
But if you
Yes,
don't know,
and, and it got extended because of COVID.
Right.
And we kind of chose not to sell it through COVID because we actually started making a lot more money through
Right.
COVID because we were doing things correctly, and then we just got a lot more,
the more cash started coming in, why would I give up something
and
that's making
then
me
we had a
money?
really good track record for the profit for us to be able to sell it after
Right.
8 years. We ended up selling it after 7.5.
So here's what I hear you saying. The plan was to sell it in 5. We were making too much money. We decided to hang on for another 3
Yeah.
and then sell it for more money
Right.
Correct.
after the other 3.
Yes.
Right.
We sold for definitely a lot more. We probably sold for more, I probably got another, extra.
Another third or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we get into the story of what happened, which is like a really great story for people to hear, I want to go back to the very beginning and something Dennis and I were talking about, and Dennis mentioned and brought up before the podcast about your story, which was a lot of people don't think about this, and it's a super valuable point you brought up, which was, so I'm not going to do the normal thing where I say, hey, remember that point you brought up? And you're like, what point?
Yeah, what point, Greg? What are you talking about?
So the one about getting into it and making sure you have enough reserves
Right.
Correct.
for however long, right? So Dennis brought up a good point and said, hey, it sounds like, also the money was put aside for, because I'm going to get to my point here, but the idea was going in, you knew it was going to lose money, right?
Correct.
Okay. So how long roughly did you think it was going to lose money before it started making money? Because it was, at the time, it was a guess.
Well, we were guessing about 2 years. That I think it's kind of a normal expectation in the business world when you start a business, and if you're doing things right, to build the client, depending on the business. But
the
this is
starting point.
this is a
Right.
retail store with a high overhead. So we were planning for about 2 years, and I think we kind of broke even about 18 months, I believe.
So, now, because it was not a profitable business, were you able to go to a bank and say, "Hey, I'm projecting to lose this much money for 2 years because I built this plan. Will you lend me that money?"
No.
Oh, so we had to forecast and put the money.
Yeah,
in the account,
we had to put money aside for the operating expenses, and the truth was too that for the first little while I did not get paid as the owner.
Correct.
Yeah,
Or as the employee, or just not as the owner?
well, an employee. Like I honestly, like, it was a 3,000 square feet store running 7 days a week.
Right.
We had only 3 employees, and I was one of the employees.
Okay, so you did pay yourself as an employee still?
No.
So you
No,
took nothing.
I did
This is
not
important.
take anything.
Right.
But again, we planned that going in, and we had money in the bank set aside because we planned it, because we built the
Right.
budget. We got kind of guesstimated, and using Greg's experience in retail and what margins to look for, what operating expenses percentage to look for, what wages to look for, and we just worked really, really hard at that point to build the revenue to follow our business plan for that particular situation.
Right. So people listening to this, it comes down to, number one, it's not a blind investment.
Right.
It
No,
wasn't,
it
I
was
was going through
everything
Kijiji
calculated.
and went, this feels like a good idea. Let's go buy it.
Wait. Okay. we're
Flip a
doing it.
coin, right?
We knew our
But-
breaking even point in terms of revenue.
Right, before you went in.
We calculated
So
everything.
you had access to run the numbers. You ran the numbers. You looked at what the potentials were for losses. Also realizing walking into this thing, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you potentially have to live off macaroni and cheese for a
Correct.
limited period of time
Yeah.
to turn this thing in the direction it wants to go. So this was not without sacrifice, risk, or pain.
Right.
Yes, lots of, like, again, and I would, I shouldn't say I wouldn't recommend it,
Well,
but
you
at
fought
the
some
same
tigers.
time, if you're an entrepreneur, we all work for, the purpose we feel we solve in the world. And I was working 14-hour days.
Right.
And I was okay with that because I knew, like, the runway that we had for breaking even, and the
There was light at the end of the
expectations.
tunnel.
Yeah, and I could have hired more people, but that means that breaking even point would have gone a little further.
It means
And
losing more money.
losing more money, and it just, what I made, this was almost 10 years ago, so I had a lot more energy.
Yeah.
And I was able to invest my time and energy in be in the store and do my own receiving, my own ordering, work with the customers, train the team, and eventually hire new team members to to replace the hours in the store. And so
Right.
we knew the plan, and we chose that sacrifice that I was in the store long hours.
So 2 questions. First one, roughly how long did it take before you started breaking even, which you did answer that already.
Yeah, again,
15, 18
15
months.
Yeah,
to
15,
18 months. Yeah.
So a year and a
during-
half, like, that's not a
Yeah.
long time.
Right. So during that 18 months, I guess 2 questions. One, did you ever get to a point where you're like, this isn't going to work, I'm going to give up? And if you did, how many times did you get to that point? Like, how often did that happen in that 15, 18 months?
I feel like I've been doing that daily. Like, when you're in it, it's not a fun experience.
And be honest, because
So-
I witnessed it.
Yeah, so getting into a pet store. So my background was human health, and getting into a pet store was a new endeavor.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so, and at that time, we didn't even have any pets, didn't have cats, didn't have dogs. Today we have 3. So my initial panic was, oh my God, like I don't know enough to be educating the customer. I don't know enough to be training the staff. And I just knew I had to dive into it like 1,000%.
So you're not coming in as a pet. You're not coming in as a pet expert by any means at all.
Not at all. It was brand new. I could draw from the human health experience, but I did not know enough. So I had to learn everything, and super passionate about the cause and the purpose we were solving. But yeah, I had a few panic moments and tears, and especially if you live with a business coach at home and you come after day of work, putting out fires, and you come home and all you get instead of big hug is solutions.
Here's what you should have done, honey.
Yes. So that was challenge, and obviously challenges relationship at home.
Yeah.
But
there's nothing worse than being in a business with your spouse. It's having your business partner being the coach of the business that you're in.
Correct. But I'm super grateful, because if I would have gone into it blind without knowing, so to your point about like we had planned for, we had a cushion. Another thing to understand and be aware of that is if you moving into a different country, you're moving to a different climate, and you're purchasing a business in a different climate, there's expenses that you're not aware about. So simple, we moved to Arizona, and we didn't realize that if you don't adjust your air conditioning, it goes from $700 a month to $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
In expenses, if you don't adjust your air conditioning when you're not there.
Right.
So
we have to keep the place a fridge, even if nobody's in it, right? No.
Yeah. So anyway, so as much as we calculated so much, like to detail, you also relying on the information given by the seller to you.
Yeah.
Which not all sellers tell the truth.
Right.
True. Or they're not even aware that that's a possibility. So
great for the listeners, great little tidbit, diamond in the rough lesson there. When you're buying a business, just like when you look at the numbers and the P&L and whatever it is, the financials,
and you pretend like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, right. Totally right. Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Exactly.
You get that you're getting it, and you're looking at it, going, "Oh, everything makes sense to me." Yeah, for sure. I'll just.
If the business wasn't doing well, there's a reason, and then therefore maybe there's stuff like you're bringing up expenses in there they just didn't realize. Or incorrect.
There were some expenses that ended up being more than we were expecting. Our money that we put aside, we didn't want to get a loan.
So it didn't feel like it was going to be enough.
Well, so that was next, right at the break even point, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to run out of money. And that was turned out that's where I was what I recall, as much as working 14-hour days was tough, but that was really big stress.
The fear.
And it just, again, I'm like, oh my God, now I'm going to my spouse. And I said, listen, instead of me hiring a new person, can you come and mop my floors? And can you go in and stock?
No, this was your problem and your choice. You deal with it.
So, I had to borrow the labor a little bit just for another couple months until I'm like, okay, now ball is rolling. And now, our customers now bringing customers, referrals, and it kind of clicks at some point.
Yeah. So back to panic before we move forward on the plan, what you did, because I think there's a good lesson there. But for those listening who find themselves anywhere close to a situation like this, because I know there were many nights per week you would come home after midnight.
Yeah.
And we installed cameras so I could see, everything's okay and you're safe. But you'd come home after midnight and, I'd be asleep, but I'd wake up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and you're literally crawled up in a ball on the floor out in the hallway.
Falling asleep.
No, in tears. Because early anyway, was this a mistake?
The anxiety is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those watching, if you feel like you're in that situation, the reason for today's podcast is a lesson and a real life story about you can dig yourself out of those situations. right?
Well, and
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But it would be really hard if you do not have the right information. I think getting the right information, the right plan, you see that light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get through the, like being tired, being hungry, can get you in a tear mode.
right, for sure.
But
Especially if you don't know that it's for a reason.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Suffering for the sake of suffering isn't fun, but suffering for the sake of a reason makes suffering bearable.
yeah.
Just most people don't want to suffer.
Yeah, totally. So my understanding, and this is where we get into your plan and what I think is great for the audience to learn, is the number one part of the plan that got you out of the hole and into success was really understanding and managing that blend of gross margin, right?
Correct.
So just kind of share a bit of that story.
Well, maybe we should let people know what a blended gross margin means.
Yeah.
Good point.
Because there's probably
Yeah.
a lot
Oh,
of
yeah, that's
people
a great
listening
point.
in that don't understand
Yeah,
what you're
you're
even
right. Good
talking
point.
about. So when you're looking at what you guys sell, different products you're going to buy at different prices. And the market's going to tolerate only so much for you to sell that product.
Right.
So I can't go and buy these glasses for $1 and sell them for $1 million and expect somebody to buy them. It's not going to happen. So there's only so much I can afford to pay, and only so much the customer can afford to pay that sets up what you're allowed to sell it for.
Right.
A blend of margin is I might buy this for $1 and sell it for 10, or I might buy this one and sell it for,
And then buy these.
and then buy that, right? And then you start putting your products together in a package that lets you go, okay, between all of them, what I'm making off this thing to that thing, this thing to that thing means I can make a little bit more overall if I can get the customer to buy multiple things versus one thing.
Yeah. And what's the percentage on the glasses? Like if the glasses are a 40% gross margin and the
Water bottles a 10% gross margin.
Exactly. So what's that look like? Like I remember, actually, just as an example, I remember when we were in sporting goods way back in the day, and when Lance Armstrong's Live Strong
Bracelets.
concept came out, the yellow bracelet, I remember we looked at carrying those, and his company basically set it up where the selling price in the market was at a 10% gross margin. So just for argument's sake, let's just say they cost $1. You sell them to the customer for $1. So a 10% gross margin is 90 cents cost of goods. Well, for any retailer, like,
You can't make money at that.
yeah, you can't make money at
The
that.
volume you have to sell is insane.
Correct. So we had a choice. Do we go create a green one and call it, Be Great People, and sell them and pay pay 90 cents and sell them for $1.80, and then our competition sells the yellow Live Strong one for $1, and we win. Except nobody's going to walk in the store and want the green one that says "Be a Great Person." They want the yellow one, so you have to sell it. So in some cases, you have to sell that product or service or whatever
because
it is.
that's the product that's bringing them in the door.
Right. So you might have a low margin. Now, if you got to make a high margin, and I know we've discussed this on other podcasts, but I guess let's hit what is gross margin. You buy something, you buy a product or a service.
So in this case, you buy dog food, or
Correct.
you buy a dog treat, or you buy
Right.
a dog snack, or you buy a
from a
dog
vendor,
toothbrush.
and then you got to sell it. And the difference between the price you paid and what you sold it for, that's the gross margin. So in the case of Live Strong, that was 10% of the selling price. Now, if your rent is 10 or 15% and your staffing are 10 or 15%, well, those add up to 20 to 30% of your selling price.
Selling just bracelets would take you forever to make money.
Yeah, and then you can't make money if you're only making 10% on what you're selling, so it doesn't work. But if that item is the only item you can sell and it's high demand, like say diapers, I know in retail, no retailers make much money on diapers. It's
Yeah,
like
that
the Live
consumer.
Strong. Yeah. But if the retailer says, no, I'm not going to sell diapers, then the customer says, well, I'm not going to shop at your store anymore. I'm going to go to shop at that store because they sell diapers.
And they happen to have
And
baby
then
clothes.
whatever else you're going to sell them, you don't sell. Exactly. So it's to set the background for the people watching this. What is gross margin and what is margin blending, to your point? So there's certain products you have to sell, like we just gave examples of. And then there's other ones you need to offer, but do you have to offer brand A or brand B, right? And I think that's the lesson today we want to learn from you is what what did that look like? What did that journey look like? So I guess step one, you looked at the numbers. I'm just picking a random number so it's easy for the audience to understand. But let's just say you had a retail store doing $100,000 a month, which means over 12 months, it's 1.2 million a year. So in that 1 month, you do 100,000 in sales. If your gross margin is say 25%, which is what the store was when you got it, then that means on that 100,000 in sales,
25 grand.
yeah. So you're paying, you're
And if your rent
buying
is
stuff for
$6,000.
75,000, you're making 25,000 gross margin. But in that 25,000 gross margin, you got, 7,000 in rent. You got
Insurance that you
15,000
weren't
in
expecting.
wages. You got the air
Right,
conditioning
you
at
weren't
1,500 bucks.
expecting, yeah.
The expenses are more than the 25 grand, so you can't make money.
Yeah.
So the expenses were actually 30,000 of the 100,000. Say, just as an example.
Right, rough
These
numbers.
aren't real numbers; they're example. So, your first thing you attacked was, I got to increase the revenue. So different
Yeah.
story, different day. But you got to change that gross margin.
Well,
Instead of making 25%, you need to make more than 30%. So if you wanted to make 10% profit and the expenses were 30%, you got to make 40% gross margin.
Well,
So
Correct.
how did you attack
even
that?
on that though, by attacking gross margin first, your revenue is automatically going to increase as a byproduct.
Yeah.
Right. So by focusing on revenue first, you're missing the entire point of the game.
Yes.
But I think by changing your perspective to margins first, revenue is just that natural byproduct that occurred.
Yeah, totally.
So in the pet store, the dog food is actually like diapers. They
You make no money on it.
You barely
It's
make.
tough.
It's tough to make money on it. You got to really look at every single brand and see what they offer. But never
But
in
when you
our
say
particular store. In our particular store, we focused on health. Like health was the most important thing. So we did not sell
Pet health.
Pet health. So we did not sell poor quality.
Right. So you weren't gonna
brands.
sell sawdust dipped in bone broth just to make more money.
And I can just say it too. Like we would not sell like rawhide or milk bone because like that's like probably super cheap to buy and decently priced to sell. Like you have big margin on these products, but we refuse to sell them because it's just not healthy for the
Right,
dog.
it's not the best
It's
option.
all about
So
longevity of the
it
dog.
breaks your vision.
Dog and cat, yes. So within the healthy brands, so anyway, the food is your highest revenue, lowest
Margin.
and
So it's lying to you the most. It's telling you how much money
Yeah.
you're making while taking everything from your
absolutely,
pocket.
and you cannot and like. So it's a multi-layered approach because it's not only knowing your margins, but it's working with your staff to educate them on. But if we just go back to brands, specific brands, like there were 3 top brands, and number one, so like if our what margin we needed, it was around 40% for us to make some profit at the end of the day. After my manager's wage, yes. So there were
So that
3.
would allow you to get paid as a manager.
Yes,
And make a profit as an owner.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And then situations we were in too that we were franchise, and so there's franchise fees on top of it.
Right,
So like,
so, like-
if you talk about regular just one-off pet store, you have a lot more.
You have a
play
5 to
with.
7% better spread
Correct.
because
yes.
you're not losing that off the top of everything.
Yeah, so you really got to stay on.
By the way, I
top
don't know
of
if that
it.
was the franchise fee. Every franchise is different, but
Yes,
there's
yes,
the
yeah.
spreads that go anywhere
Yeah.
between 5 and 12, depending on
Yeah.
Correct.
the franchise you're with.
So yeah, so you have to really look. So anyway, we had 3 top brands. So the number 1 selling brand, great quality, but it was around 24-25 margin.
Right.
Which means you're losing money on every transaction because your
Correct.
expenses are 30%.
But
Before
it was
franchise
great.
fees.
Like it was
Yeah.
great
No.
tasting.
Franchise fees included.
Okay.
At 30.
Yeah, great tasting food. Great
Healthy.
results. Well, we're talking about dry food here,
Right.
so like, it's a different topic. But so this is dry food, and so the second one,
Great for dry food.
great for dry food. The second one, second brand offered 40%. It was great brand. It was 40%. Third was only 18%. And what they were presenting, the third brand, and I want to say brands, it was a big international brand. They said, well, we doing marketing for you. You're a destination to come to, buy that product.
If you didn't have our product, you wouldn't have a business.
Sort of. And we're like, well, we cannot make money if we sell every single bag of you, like that brand. We'd lose money every single day. And it just, we can't do it. So anyway, what we had to do is to educate, first of all, merchandise, because like when people come in, they always like the dry food usually on the outside of the store, and so just merchandise at what's closest is the highest margin brand. So that was like number one. Merchandise.
So it was restructuring the layout for what people see when they come into the store.
Correct. So
influence their buying decision.
Yeah. So
and
it's
this can apply to any retail concept,
Yeah.
but it can also apply to like restaurants and stuff. Even a menu, like a menu layout, right?
Yeah.
How you like a special on a menu. If it's a high margin item, put it.
So you realize the
Front and
areas
center.
you could make the most money, and you restructure the store around showing the consumer the stuff that they see first to
Yeah.
influence the buying decision, to make sure that not only getting what's good for the animal, but what's good for
Same
you.
was with the treats, because treats were a higher margin. Like
Right.
it's like an upsell, I guess. I don't like
just
using
to
that
help,
word.
to help people think about it for their business. Continue on the food one, and then
Yeah.
start with the treatment.
So we first of all we merchandised it to put the highest margin closer to the customer, more convenience, and then and then I talked to my employees. We literally shared our P&L. We shared
That's the financial statement for anybody listening.
financial statement. We shared we educated them. What is the revenue? What are the expenses? What's the whole gross profit, gross margin, or whatever.
So maybe back to that example we shared a minute ago about, say you're doing 100,000.
Yeah.
You're paying
You showed them how
60,000
it
for the
works.
cost of goods. You're paying
Well,
30,000 to operate the store. You need to make to help.
what
them
we
generate.
actually did was really interesting and interactive. I actually took pictures of these 3 brands.
Yep.
And we actually wrote, okay, so this is the cost. Like we drew a line
So
in the
a bag of food. Yeah.
so they can visualize it very simply. And then we drew like, okay, this is the cost. This is our, gross
Overhead.
margin. This is our expenses. There's your
There's
wages.
this little thing up at the top called profit.
And the profit like would be either minus or like, we have like a couple dollars left on it. So we showed the employees like visual, and they were like, oh my gosh.
They had no idea.
They had no idea. Well, I didn't know until I started doing it myself, looking at each brand.
So So anybody watching this is going to say, I'm not going to share that stuff with my employees. Like that's
Well, that's because they
fearful,
don't
right?
understand it, though.
Right. So what was the reaction from the employees?
Was huge aha moment, and
But was
In a
it
good way.
negative or positive?
no, it was positive. Again, I do want to go back, and talk about it maybe later. You have to, as a own business owner, you have to earn the right to look at the numbers with your employees, and
Right.
and I don't want to say like demand expectations for the business to be healthy. You cannot start with that. Like anyway, you have to kind of earn the right.
We'll do a podcast on that.
Yeah. But anyway, I had to educate the employees on the quality of the food and also the margin on the food, and saying like, if we want to help as many pets as we can, we have to make our business healthy. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, so if they understand that you have like a 10% net profit, just so you guys know, if you give them a 10% discount, I've got to sell 10 more bags
talk
to
about
make
that
up.
as well, and that's another thing too. When we bought the store, it came with the employees. We actually had to do
A re-education.
we had to
Employees were
unfortunately-
discounting
Yeah, they
on the floor. Oh, you're a good customer. I'll give you 15%.
That's what I mean. You have to
off.
re-educate
Like,
those
wow.
employees.
Well, yeah, we had to let some go, unfortunately, and then some re-educate. But again, like that's stuff done without the knowledge. Once we showed them the visually, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah. If I give Nancy, she's gonna expect 10% off the next time she comes in because she's a loyal customer. Well, now you lost money, and that's not your money. Like you cannot make, as an employee, you cannot make those decisions. This is not your money. If you want to get that out of your paycheck, go ahead. But
But
nobody
it makes
wants
but
to
it
do
makes
that.
sense for me to discount if I'm trying to get people to buy more stuff. And
Well,
increase
again,
my
we had
revenue.
to
But
we
it's
had
like-
to educate that, yeah, because once we broke it down per product, like the light bulb went
Right,
off,
they understood.
and then they couldn't, like, now they, like, so if somebody comes in and tries to like ask for a deal, they're like, well, no, we can't. Like, they know, they can't, and they know why.
They know the actual cost
Yeah.
of the deal.
So so what happened through time, the customers shifted to the highest margin because it was still really great product, very tasty, and got good results in terms of health. And the first brand ended up being second brand. And that's another discussion, how to do the blended margin, to make sure that in a transaction we do get some money left over. And the third brand got discontinued. So we dropped it, even though it was one of the biggest
Right.
international, like, huge in Canada, huge in United States.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't making any money, why sell it? And of course,
Yeah.
the ego that they would have coming into that one.
Yeah.
And what ended up being as well, they ended up having some recalls on top of it because they're so big. They kind of lost
quality started to
control.
go down.
They lost control of their quality, and that was like, that's it. That was easier to transition people to the
Right.
brands that never had recalls. So
to help, so the plan was to increase the blended gross margin, which meant you got to look at all the brands, look at what gross margin you have on each brand, and then figure out, okay, today they're averaging out at 24, 25. How do I get them to average out at over 30?
Correct.
Right? Because it needs to be over 30
Yeah.
to make money because your operating expenses are 30. So you had to decide which ones you're going to re-merchandise closer to where the customer comes in.
Correct.
Which ones go back. But then you had to get the staff to buy into
Yeah.
that, to want to do it in the best interest of the customer. So
Correct.
then, okay, which ones are good for the customer, et cetera, like healthy. Let's focus on those. And then you educated the staff on it.
Yes.
And then they bought in because you showed them how to do it.
Yeah.
So for any business, that doesn't matter what you sell, food or a restaurant or a retail store or whatever, that could be applied.
correct.
And then share the treat story you're going to talk about. Just to
Yes.
hammer this point home.
Yeah. So again, food was never, even though highest revenue, it wasn't putting
Money in your pocket.
money in our pocket. And so with pets, especially with dogs, they love their treats. So if you're coming for food,
Heck, I'm a human. I love my treats.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not really any different.
So it was all about, obviously, carrying what dogs like, what's healthy. But again, we had a few different brands, and we looked at it. So what we ended up doing, the items that we cannot get in other brands, we carried. So like we lowered the selection on that brand.
So that
to
was
minimum.
brand number one
Yeah.
in revenue,
Correct. And then so
but lowest margin.
yeah, so we brought out more treats from the brands that had higher margin. We merchandised them close to the till. We had signage.
So kind of like the chocolate bars you're buying on your way out at the grocery store.
Correct,
But I think in
correct.
this case, brand number one was the most sales.
Yeah.
And the margin was about 13 points low. Like it was 42.
It was like, yeah, it was
versus
like
55
10 to 15.
on the other ones, right?
Yeah,
So you took that brand and moved it away from the cash till,
correct.
and
Make
you
it
took the other
inconvenient
two-
to grab.
Right, move the other two
Because
closer.
I mean, dog food bags are nice and light and easy for everybody to carry.
Expanded the selection of the,
I think we brought in an additional brand
right.
that offered the same
Quality.
type of same quality, but same type of product. So if you're talking bully sticks,
Right.
So it was just a different bully stick brand, and make sure we had SKUs that we're selling. It was just a different brand. It just had a lot higher margin, and then again we just switched slowly customers to that, and that made a huge difference because when people buy their So same with supplements. So we looked at supplements, we looked at toys, we looked at treats.
So you broke down your revenue by literally every single department.
Not just department, but SKUs too. Like obviously, like we had to, I had to closely monitor because again, having franchise fees, like you're running on such a small, margin that you got to watch it. Like every single time, like we another big thing that we did that really helped us actually sell the store for decent amount, like good amount of money, because I really like when I put in an orders, I looked at what I'm paying for it, if there's any changes, and then also I was entering correct cost in my POS system, because I know other stores didn't. Like if they ordered for $2, but it came in at $2.30, they just
put in
left it at
$2.
$2.
So, and I know
So they
we're
have,
running
And I
out.
they've
did
got
little
phantom margin, things that doesn't exist.
Right.
I did extra work because other stores would look at, because it's franchise, right? Other stores would look at me and be like, why are you entering everything through your like computer through the POS versus if you just scan the product in, receive? I'm like, because there's always
It's just a
changes
rounding
in it.
error.
Well, yeah, and so all these different things actually really like we
Yeah,
had a
nickel and
correct
dime.
we
Yeah.
had a correct margin.
So I know we're running out of time, but to summarize this little point here, it's a big one for any business. If you have vendors that you order from that ship you stuff, it's very frequent and common that they overcharge you for products because they know most businesses don't do what you just said, which is double check the price.
Yeah.
So your thought was I was supposed to pay $2. They shipped it. They invoiced you for $2.30. And if you don't check to confirm and match and compare that, your expectation to the actual price, then you pay the $2.30 and just don't even, or you may have ordered it for $2, but someone over here is cutting the checks and paying the invoices and they just pay the $2.30
Yeah.
thinking it's okay.
So we had to correct errors too with the
It was
vendors.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I got money back sometimes.
yeah, it's much more frequent than businesses think. So if you're buying products as a business, that's a thing you should double check. So to summarize, because we're running short on time, the margin went from when you took over the store just under 25
Correct.
to when you sold the store, what
40?
percent?
It was around
43,
40.
I think, right?
Yes.
So that's from a 24, 25 to a 43. Imagine if
That's a 100% increase.
Yeah. So if your
Margin.
operating expenses are 30%, so again, let's take that 100 grand. If your operating expenses are 30,000 on the 100, but your margin's only 25,000, you're losing 5,000 a month. If your margin goes to 43, you're now making 43,000 a month. If your operating expenses are 30, you're now making 13,000
Yeah.
a month. So again, just on a $100,000 example. So huge lesson. And then I think, to wrap up here, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is where we started the discussion, and Dennis alluded to, is when you sold it, now you can sell it for a premium because you're making good money and you got a lineup at the door. Like
Yeah,
you
we had
actually got into a
multiple
part
offers,
where
yeah.
it could have been a bidding war to buy it.
Yeah.
And why? Because you got a business that's performing,
Yep.
it's making money, and it's systemized because you
Well, we didn't touch on that, but over the process, you obviously built the systems to back
Yeah.
yourself away from it.
Yes,
This is more of a margin conversation.
At the end, I actually was just kind of working from
we should
home
actually
mostly.
do a podcast on that.
Yeah, just mostly working from home, giving support to the staff. Still did all the ordering and all that stuff, but the
So-
store was running on its own.
For everybody listening, just to summarize, and you can cut me off if I'm wrong anywhere. The couple of steps that you took were, number one was you analyzed every brand and every option that brand sold to find out where you're actually making your money from on the brands. You then took the heavier bags of dog food that didn't make you any money, moved them into more of an inconvenient location so the customer is more inclined to buy the same quality of product, but give you a little bit more money to do it. And then you moved all of the stuff, like the extras, the chocolate bars, the toys, the stuff. I call it chocolate bars because I'm a human, but the bully sticks, everything else. These
Chocolate bar sounds better than bull penis.
for sure, especially as a human. As a dog, no.
Other way
So
around, yeah.
we got the bully sticks, but you were saying you also looked at who was supplying those treats, and if there was a similar treat to that somebody else was selling to sell you at a better price,
Yeah.
you were willing to buy the one at a better price. So you literally got down into the micro of
Correct.
everything, and then didn't let people pull the wool over your eyes. Meaning, I'm going to send Sandra. I'm going to send you these 150 bully sticks for $100, and the bill comes in at 125. You actually looked at it and said, "Hey, wait a minute."
And in that as well is keeping on top of your credits getting the credits back from the vendors.
Right.
You know, that was
so
a
leveraging
really,
programs they have in place.
Right.
absolutely, because a lot of stores would just stick that coupon right in the drawer or, you know, throw it in the garbage. Oh yeah, $2 here, $5 here. I calculated over 7.5 years was close to $200,000 in coupons that I collected because I kept receipts of everything, and the other stores, they're like, oh, I'm not going to bother with that because it's too convenient.
It's
But
too
anyway,
much work.
yeah, I'll get
Huge
paid
deal.
for my time doing the coupons, $200,000 over
It's
like
worth the
7.5 years. You kidding me?
So a lot of the work that you did isn't the work that most people do. Most people think that the work involved in turning a business around is, well, I got to go sell more of the popular things.
Right.
I got to put my effort into more of the popular things. You looked at it and you did the harder work, which was, okay, I get it. Those are the popular things, but I need to actually make money at this. So I'm going to do the hard work of breaking everything down to find out where the money actually is and then chase that
Yeah.
Yeah,
versus just the revenue dollar.
correct. Yeah.
Which, by the way, every business is this way. There's not a single business on the planet that if they do this exercise won't make money.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can't say that. There's probably some business I've never heard of that you just can't make money no matter what you do, but then
Right.
is it really a business?
So actually, on that closing note, my example of what you just said is always like if you have a company that sells just pink toilet paper and you think that's the way to go. And I've been using that sarcastic example for years. And then when we were in Paris, I walked into a little dépanneur, like a grocery store, and there's a wall of pink toilet paper.
But just pink toilet paper?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It might sell.
I'm curious, if is it a stationary dye or is it a rubbing dye? 'Cause you might end up with a
All
dye
right.
job you're not expecting.
Right. Thanks for listening to the More Profit, Less Stress podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment or review if you're feeling generous. To learn more about us and what we do, check out our website. Until next time, take care.